Hi, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Come to you this afternoon with the book tag. Been watching some YouTube videos and I'd noticed that Steve Donahue had done the how do you book tag, and the actual person who created this was Shawn Standfast over at his channel, and the how do you book tag was created because he kept getting questions in his videos over how he organizes his library and stuff like that, and he had one person in particular that asked him a whole series of questions, and he just turned it into a book tag, and I thought it was a really good book tag. It's the type of questions that you would ask anybody with a good sized library, and of course Shawn Standfast has a very good sized library, and those of you that follow Steve Donahue, he's got a good sized library, and I would be willing to bet that a lot of the big name people on BookTube have good sized libraries. That's one of the reasons they're on there. They love books. But I wanted to go through these 6 questions with you and share how I feel with all the books in my library. And so anyway, without further ado, first question in the how do you book tag is, do you read more than one book at a time? And if yes, what are you reading? And do you read one book at a certain time of day and another at another time of day? And so for me, I usually almost always have more than one book going at one time. It's kind of a bad habit. Matter of fact, sometimes I'll get a couple chapters into one, then I get busy, put it down, and a little time goes by, I start another one, put it down, start another one, put it down, and then by time summer gets here, because I've shared with you in the previous couple videos that life's about ready to start getting hectic. March, April, and May for teachers is like a zoo, and especially if you do some coaching and stuff, and I do. And I like to read books with the material that I'm covering in class. So sometimes I get several books going because we're switching units, we're getting busy with stuff on the side, and I put the book down and get sidetracked. And so by the time summer comes, I might have like 8, 9, 10 different books that are sitting on my nightstand that I'm still trying to finish up. I usually regularly read 2 or 3 at one time. I don't have any idea how I keep all the information, straight. My daughter, as she shared in a previous video when we were doing we were doing a book tag together, and she was saying she can't do that. She mixes up all the information and everything, and for me, I don't know. I don't know if I compartmentalize everything in my brain or what, but I've always been able to just keep everything straight, and so I always have more than one book going at a time. So since I answered yes, they asked me what I'm reading. So today I just finished, I got a good chunk of time this morning to read, and I just finished The Glass Castle, which I'll be doing a book review here in a little while on, and I'll get that uploaded for you. I am reading The Return of George Washington, 1783 to 1789. And then I also have a John Grisham book going, and let's see, The Client is the one I'm working on, The Client. And I've got a paperback version at school that I use during our sustained silent reading time that we do each day. And so those are the 3 that I've got going, and then I got some magazines that I'm reading. And anyway, those are the 3 I got going. And do you read one book at a certain time of the day and another at another time? Yes, I am very much like that. My brain operates the best in the mornings if we're talking about technical stuff. And so I love to read nonfiction, so I read nonfiction every single day, or I try to read every single day, and it's always in the morning. If I've got time to read in the afternoon or evening, it's usually fiction, because fiction is kind of mindless, and I can go without doing a lot of thinking. I don't have to do note taking or anything like that, whereas my nonfiction's a little slower paced. And so if I tried to do my nonfiction in the afternoon, I'd probably fall asleep. Matter of fact, I do fall asleep when I try that. So I usually read 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. That's just how I've always done it, or it works best for me anyway. So question number 2, how do you organize your library? All right, so this is kind of a tough question. So right at the moment, the books behind me, I kind of have them by era. So I've got one shelf that's got some Revolution stuff. I got stuff that's got Civil War stuff. I've got world history stuff, World War II stuff, some World War I in there. That's kind of how I organize these shelves. These are the ones my wife told me to keep them looking good, or keep them, don't just pile books up on them. So I kind of organized them that way. But when I had my library upstairs, so a couple years ago we had another baby, and my wife had originally, we got bookshelves all around the shelves upstairs, or excuse me, all around the walls upstairs in one of the bedrooms. And I had a library going, and then we had a baby, and so my oldest daughter moved into that room. I lost my library, and my youngest daughter is in the bedroom across from us. And so now my books are in a storage room, and there's storage totes, because our house is an older house, doesn't have a lot of storage areas. So we've got totes and stuff that are kind of stacked up in front of the bookshelves. So it's not really organized right now. I would like it to be, but it's not. In the future, I hope it to be. Maybe even in the near future. I don't know. But anyway, how I did have my library organized was the books that I had not read yet. I had by author last name, alphabetically by author last name. And that's my nonfiction. My fiction were just kind of lumped up into sets. I didn't really have, other than that, a real way to organize them. I mean, I guess I could have done them by author, but they were just kind of on the shelf. But my nonfiction, the ones that I probably cared about the most, I had them by author last name alphabetically. And once I had read the book, what I started doing towards the end was I had a whole nother shelf that I was putting my books that I had read on. And I actually was using the Dewey Decimal System. I'm kind of nerdy. I was using the Dewey Decimal System and putting them together by era in history. And that way it was making it so it was easier for me to find stuff when I was looking for it, teaching wise. And then also another way that I had things organized was I had all my Abraham Lincoln books were all on one shelf, because I got quite a few Abraham Lincoln books. So I had those all on one shelf, and then I had all my George Washingtons on one shelf. But other than that, I didn't have any other way that I was organizing. That's just how I had my collection. So question number 3 is, do you ever get the urge to reorganize your library in a different way? So my current setup right now, yes, I would like to reorganize it, because I would love to go back to the old way that I had it before I had to move my bookshelves out of that bedroom. So short answer, yes, I would like to reorganize it. Question number 4 was, who's your favorite small or finer press publisher? Now this one's kind of a tricky one for me, just because I'll be honest, I don't pay a lot of attention to the publishers for the most part. I know who the big name publishers are, but I don't know a lot of the small publishers. So I don't know that I even have an answer to this. If I was to give you just a favorite publishers, I like the big name publishers. Alfred A. Knopf is a good history publisher, history book publisher. I do like them, and there's several others, but I don't know that I have a small press publisher that I like more than the others. Question number 5: can you recall every book you have in your library? Or are there books you find on your shelves that seem to have just shown up? Now, I do know the books that are in my library. Now, I've got enough that, or my number's gotten high enough that I can't like name them all off all in a row. But when I am at the bookstore at Books Revisited, looking through the used bookshelves and trying to find something that maybe I'd want, as I go through browsing through there, I know, okay, I've got that, I don't need it. I've got that, I don't need it. Oh, I don't have that. So I can do that. I do have that recall for the most part. Occasionally I have troubles, like Stephen Ambrose has lots of books out there, and I've got several of them, and I do have the trouble occasionally when I get into the used bookstore and I'm looking through the Stephen Ambrose books, because I have so many of them, sometimes I do forget which ones I have and which ones I don't. But for the most part, I do know my collection. I'm pretty good with my collection. I don't go through there and find books that have just shown up. I typically remember why I bought it, where I bought it, and most of the time when I bought it. I'm pretty good about that. And I know which ones I'm wanting to pick up. And so, and then the last question on this book tag, I thought this was kind of a neat one. Do you collect bookmarks? Now, I can't say that I collect bookmarks per se, but I do have certain bookmarks that I keep. And, you know, I've got anywhere from when I buy books, you know how there's sometimes bookmarks that have been left in them. So I've got this one. I don't know why I kept it. For whatever reason, I liked it. It was stuck in the middle of one of the books, and so I've always just kind of hung on to it. I have no idea why. I don't know. But I've also got bookmarks that I have created myself. Now, Steve Donahue was talking about how he makes his own for each book or for a lot of his books. I don't do that. I've had my kids do that for me, and I always keep those. Those are treasures to me. And now locating them can sometimes be an issue because sometimes they get stuck in the middle of a book that I started and put down and it got put back on the shelf. So sometimes I have a real surprise with my bookmarks because I find them after the fact. But I also had, in the year 2013, I had a special time with my oldest daughter. I got to take her to the first time to a Major League Baseball game. And I've shared with you, baseball is one of my passions. And so that was a real treat for me. So one of my bookmarks that I have is the ticket stubs from that ball game. And that was a really, really neat moment for me and we've got some pictures and stuff, but this made a pretty cool bookmark. I thought that was pretty awesome. And then also in the newspaper, this was, what was it, a month later maybe, or a couple weeks later, there was some pictures in the newspaper of some of my favorite Kansas City Royals and some pretty cool plays that they had made. And I was starting to watch them pretty regularly again, and I hadn't done that for a few years. And so I clipped those, and I turned those into, they're kind of big bookmarks, but I turned those into bookmarks, and those are some of my favorite ones, especially the ticket stub. I got to take my daughter Crimson to the Royals game for the very first time, and that was a pretty special moment. And there'll be some time in the future where I take a picture frame, and I'm actually going to frame these up and frame up some of these newspaper clippings along with the pictures that I took of us. We took some like selfie photos with the field behind us and everything. They were really cool photos. That was a really good time for me. That's a lot of times what I use for bookmarks are those little things like this. I take my favorite stuff and put it with my favorite thing to do, reading. I've also got, sometimes I'll find a cool quote, and I'll write that down, and that ends up on a sticky, and I hang on to those forever for whatever reason. Probably should clean those out sometimes. Here's another funny one. These are Herbert Hoover stamps. I have no idea why I hung on to them, but I have a whole bunch of them, and I always use those as a bookmark. So I got some odds and ends. I wouldn't say I collect bookmarks, but I collect things that I use as bookmarks, if that makes any sense. So anyway, this is my How Do You book tag. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I've enjoyed thinking and talking about this stuff with you. Let me know what you think. You can leave comments down below. If you like the video, please hit the little thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. And as always, happy reading.